Hey, what's up everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I hear the Heat are out on DeMar DeRozan. I think he's going to find out that most of the market is out on him if he's adamant about having a 3-year deal and a sign and trade. I just don't think too many teams are going to want to do that. At this age, he doesn't fit everywhere because he's not known for stretching the floor. Now, I do think he's a better three-point shooter than people say he is, but I don't want to have to rely upon him stretching the floor in order to be successful with him on the floor. He's a mid-range specialist. He does a lot of Kobe-like stuff, you know, turnaround fades and stuff like that, which is really pretty to watch, but does kind of affect the spacing on the floor with non-shooters. I hear the Sacramento Kings could be interested at this point. And there was another team besides us as well, but I think the Lakers are kind of back in on DeMar. He may find that the market is not as excited about bringing him in as maybe he anticipated. And I think it has to do mostly with his age and with the fact that he's not a defensive specialist. For what he does and not spacing the floor, you really need to be elite defensively in order for it to make sense for a lot of teams, I think, at this point, especially if you're older. So all of that works against him, but I do think that he continues to defy the odds. Every time people expect for him not to, he does, is essentially how that works. When he first got to Chicago, people were kind of out on him. A lot of what he did was not really paid attention to in San Antonio because San Antonio was just kind of like in a rebuilding stage while he was there. But when he got to Chicago, I think many people forgot he was an MVP candidate that first year. That team was good. Before Lonzo Ball went down, those guys were clicking on all cylinders. Zach LaVine was healthy. That was a very good Chicago team, but they just couldn't overcome Lonzo's injury. Lonzo was kind of the connective piece that made everything make sense on both sides of the floor. So they just never recovered from that as a franchise. But I haven't forgotten how well DeMar played in that situation, how spectacular he was down the stretch of basketball games. And when you consider him refining his skills from the perimeter, from the mid-range, at this point, he's a bucket pretty much from 20 feet, 15 feet. He's a bucket. So I think people may be downplaying what he can do based on some of his not-so-strengths, I guess you can say. And it's just unfortunate because he just isn't a great fit for every team. But he's going to put some wins on you, especially if you're a team that doesn't execute very well down the stretch. You know, a team that I think would be really interesting for DeMar, even though the spacing could be funny, is the Timberwolves. Because of the fact that they were not known for having more than one threat offensively down the stretch of basketball games. Now, granted, that dynamic has changed since they got Rob Dillingham. I think that whole dynamic is different now. But assuming Rob Dillingham ain't quite ready to step in and be who it is they ultimately believe he will become, it could stand the reason why this first year with Dillingham, they may still only have a one-dimensional option down the stretch of basketball games. DeMar DeRozan can help them win some big, close games. And I don't think they have the money to necessarily sign him if he's on this, but I do think that since Minnesota's so close to Chicago, in theory, it's kind of almost like a hop skip. There shouldn't be that much of a difference for him now that he's lived in the Midwest for an extended period of time. So I don't know, man. I just canvass a lead for places he can go. And like I said, the fact that he doesn't space the floor reliably, nor is he an overly reliable defender, makes you wonder if he could really do it, you know? With some of the teams that have bad spacing issues. Hey. So that's really what the question is. Is DeMar DeRozan the player that you want to bring in if your spacing is not very good? Or do you leave him on the board as an older guy that's ultimately going to clog very key areas for a lot of stars and players that are going to attack those angles as well, like Anthony Davis? So I don't know. I think the piece could be good, though. For a lot of teams, I think people will be pleasantly surprised at how well he's going to be able to adapt to different roles. If you have him come off the bench, he seems like a humble dude. I don't think he would like to come off the bench. He ain't going to offer it. But I don't peg him as the type of person that's going to look at that role and say, oh, my God, get me out of here. I can't stand this. I think a lot of players who are used to being starters, it has less to do with ego and more to do with routine, just like Russell Westbrook used to complain about. It's the routine of being starting for 15 years and then has to come off the bench. And ultimately throws a lot of athletes off because they're creatures of habit in a lot of cases, if not all. So I think that could be the adjustment for DeMar, who's probably not used to coming off the bench at all. But I think at this stage in his career, if he's going to extend his career, eventually he's going to have to take a lesser role, and that will require him to play some bench roles. So I think it would be great for him to embrace that right now. And if he's ready to embrace that right now, I think it opens up a multitude of opportunities for him to go to a lot of different places that maybe don't want him right now, particularly the LA Lakers, who probably do want him, but the fit is funny if he's not coming off the bench. Now, if he's coming off the bench, we can surround him with shooters and put him in positions to really thrive. The problem is you still want him on the floor at the end of games, and if your core is part of the spacing issue, then that's not a solution necessarily. You don't get the most out of DeMar unless he's able to be a threat as a last shot maker. So, for me, I just think it's a little tricky in a lot of situations in that way. But if you can sacrifice some of that, or if you have a creative enough coach to make that work, DeMar DeRozan's going to put some wins on your team. He's going to put some wins on your board. So, obviously, the Clippers are a team that should be mentioned, although they've done a lot of things in free agency already. I don't know how much cap space they would necessarily have. But obviously, coming home is something interesting. Sacramento has been mentioned, if I didn't already say their name. I think they're a team that's always looking for another two guard. For whatever reason, I don't really know what the vision is for Sacramento's team as it pertains to them being interested in Bradley Beal last year, being interested in Zach LaVine now. I really don't get it, why that organization seems to be hell-bent on bringing in an old shooting guard, but they are. Old, overpaid shooting guards are always in demand in Sacramento. I don't really understand it, but all in all, I think DeMar DeRozan could probably help just about every team he plays for, so long as he's willing to take a role that best fits the circumstance and willing to sacrifice some of those last-second opportunities, which, even if he is willing to sacrifice it, your team probably shouldn't. He's probably a good bet to make that shot. So, I don't know. I think the fact that he's not on demand is a little. I mean, it's predictable for his age, but for what it is he's proven, I think so. I think the field may be a little mistaken, to be honest with you. I think they may be evaluating him incorrectly in the grand scheme of things. So I'm just curious to see how that plays out. Because if he's still able to do some of the things that we've known that he can do, obviously the athleticism is probably weaned off some, but he can still get off the ground, still get to the line, still hit it at a high rate. You can always use a last-second Kobe-like type dude. You can use that player at the end of shot clock situations and at the end of basketball games. So I'll be happy if DeMar ends up a Laker. I will. I don't like the path. Just like I said about Bronny James. It seems like the path to get him ain't worth it. You know? But if for some reason we have him, I'm pretty sure I'll be happy to watch him play every night. But sign and trade, offering picks, giving up young players, giving up expiring D-Lo, I just don't really want to do that. I just don't want to. I don't like that path. I can use those assets differently, and that's really what it is. I'm pretty sure Miami feels the same way in regards to whatever they have to sign and trade. You see yourself being able to use those assets differently in a better way. So if we can give up Gabe Vincent and pair that up with something else that ain't as interesting to us, then DeMar DeRozan should be somebody that we'd be very excited to bring in. But it would be even easier for us if DeMar would just accept that one-year deal. Obviously, the mid-level is no longer on the table. Bron took the max. It would really suck in some ways if we double back and get DeMar DeRozan now that LeBron has signed the max, because he was willing to take the pay cut for DeMar. We just couldn't get it done soon enough. But that's on DeMar, you know. He wasn't willing, so. But for me, it's like, well, damn. Can we restructure that, Bron? You sure? You were cool with it 3 days ago. Would you be cool with it now, or is that money already locked up? Because at this point, I want that deal to still be on the table, personally. If you're willing to take a pay cut for the man 3 days ago, you should be willing to take a pay cut for him now. So that may already be signed and etched in stone, but hey, man, if you got two willing parties, things should be able to be undone. For me, it's like, I'm a little frustrated with the whole situation, because although I appreciate LeBron James being willing to take the pay cut, once you let everybody know you're willing to take a pay cut, it creates a certain different, or rather, that's not what I'm trying to say. If people know that you have a time limit on which you would be willing to do that, and they know that time limit cuts off, as we've already said on this channel several times, they probably ain't gonna, on the other side of the negotiation table, really be as pressed to work with us. It's more like, okay, you're on the clock. If you don't do what I want you to do, Bron's gonna take that money back. And it's like, that hurt us. That hurt us. You could feel that way, but no one should know about it. That could be your plan, but it definitely shouldn't be in the media. He really hurt our negotiation process. And so it makes you wonder, how serious was he about actually doing it in the first place, if he's gonna say he's willing to do something and then low-key sabotage it so that it doesn't get done. It's like, that's kind of almost how that turned out. And so I don't know, man. You can go into some conspiracy theories if it makes you feel better. I've been thinking about one that's been on my mind today. If he plans on getting another team somewhere, he can cripple the Lakers slowly but surely, because he's going to be in the same conference with us if there's a team in Vegas and he owns it. So there's a lot of stuff goes through my mind when I look at stuff like this, and I'm like, were you willing to put the money on the table or not? Because at the end of the day, it was needed. It was worked into the equation so that we could offer a mid-level to a guy if something were to come around. And it looks like DeMar DeRozan, his situation with Chicago is done. His situation in Miami, with them showing interest, apparently is done. So it's like, well, damn, he could double back, fam. He could double back. And at the end of the day, this is one long off season. It's not fragmented into week. It's an off season. So whatever's good for week 3 of the off season should be good for week 6 of the off season if we're serious about building a team. So I don't know if the Lakers just went back and said we couldn't get it done and just offered him the max, which is something I could totally see them doing. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to take a pay cut, that pay cut should be extended well into the off season, so that whatever would open up potentially during the off season could potentially be possible. So I just, if it's a genuine desire, it should be on the table still. You know, that's my thinking. But I don't know. I don't know how the contract situation actually works. I'm not sure how the deadlines work. I don't know if there's stipulations to that or something. I don't know how that works. So that's just my talking as a Laker fan and as somebody who wants this team to be built up in a way that gives us the best possible outcome for the present and most definitely the future, for which I think I'm alone in thinking about. I don't want to give up 2 picks, especially when everybody knows you're willing to give up 2 picks. It has that same effect. As soon as Rob Pelinka tells everybody in the world that he's open to giving away 2 picks, now everybody's going to ask for 2 picks for every damn thing you are trying to negotiate. Not everything on the table is worth 2 picks, but the nature of wanting to capitalize on opportunities makes it so that people are going to be greedy with negotiating with you when you tell the world that you're willing to offer up 2 picks. I just think the Lakers really spiked themselves in what they choose to communicate and what they allow representatives to communicate. I really think they hurt themselves. Taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back type of stuff when you let media or leak stuff to insiders about what you're willing and not willing to do. Man, I just think if the object of the game is to be considered a circus and incompetent, then we're pulling it off. If that's the goal, we're doing that. But if we're serious about making moves and making this team actually good enough to win, I really think we're taking 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, that kind of thing. Every time we open our mouths as an organization about our intentions, or every time one of our representatives says something about intentions, that just continues to slowly eat away at your reputation for being serious and being competent. I really do believe that. So I don't know what the strategy is at this point, but you know, I listened to some of the commentary about our team from people who are not close to the team, and they're basically saying it's a clown show and that we don't know what the hell we're doing. And I just don't think the evidence of that being solidified for this offseason is actually in place. But when you consider us talking about what we're willing to do, and people like Bron's representatives talking about money only being on the table for so long, it's almost like they don't understand how that actually contributes to the overall reputation of us not being serious. So I don't know, man. At this point, as I told you guys a couple days ago, I'm already over this. Just like a lot of Laker fans are. I think a lot of casual people are over this, just off the strength of the environment of hating LeBron James and how the media has made us obsess over him, however that works. But people pay as close attention to the team as I do. I think we're also over this because of just the intricacies of the roadblocks that are in place for building a proper franchise unit this year. Like, there's some real roadblocks that otherwise would not be in place if not for the presence of the circus that comes with LeBron James. It just makes it so that people don't want to be here, makes it so that people take pride in shunning you, take pride in doing other things, using you as a way of bouncing off opportunities for other contracts. It's a real deterrent that we're starting to find out. You know, when he makes certain demands, okay, draft my son, now people are laughing at that. That creates the overall environment where serious people are like, they're not a serious organization. So for me personally, I'm just tired of that environment. If it didn't have this effect that got in the way of us building a good team, I would be fine with it. But the fact of the matter is, it's really starting to be a problem where you got real legitimate people who would otherwise be happy with being a part of your organization saying, nah, we think we understand what's going on there and we don't want to be a part of it. So for me, I felt like we went through that with the Kobe era. You know, a lot of people didn't want to come play with Kobe because of that environment, how that situation was apparently difficult, and well, however that went. It's like we ultimately overcame that, only to jump right back in that situation with Bron. And no matter how we want to slice it, no matter how careful we want to be about our language, the results are telling us people aren't choosing us. And there has to be a why for that. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a why for a guy like Klay Thompson, who's won 4 championships, but rather go to the Dallas Mavericks, who have 2 championships as a franchise, over the Los Angeles Lakers, of whom he's native to. He's native to us because his dad played for the Lakers and was one of our legends up in the rafters. He grew up a Laker fan. So how is it that he's choosing, as a 4-time NBA champion, to go to a franchise that he has no ties to? And when I read up on what was said, he said it's because it's like you jumping out of one fishbowl, jumping into another. He's like, it's too much like being in Golden State. And it's like, well, that environment really does hurt us when we're trying to build a competent basketball team. Coupled with the mistakes that we've made with our value, that makes it difficult to build in general. So a lot of people are putting unnecessary pressure on this team to do the impossible. It's like, yo, we need guys like Klay Thompson to choose us. We don't need, on top of all the other problems we have, for him to look at this situation and say, nah. So that's my thing. It's like, I'm not someone who doesn't pay attention to this very closely, but it's almost like I have the same thing to say about us that everybody else does who don't pay any attention to us at all, because the presence of what it is that they're saying having validity is actually in the details. We really do make a lot of mistakes to hurt the team. We really do tend to be fair weather when it comes to our support as fans. We really do. Like, it's a lot of stuff that the casuals say that's actually true. So that's what it's becoming for me. It's just a realization of, yo, this franchise is not in a good space. Just like it wasn't in a good space before Bron got here. It's not in a good space now that he's here. And so I would love to not have that be a problem. As a fan and as somebody who talks about this team on a daily, I'm ready for that to be behind us. And if it means that we don't have a championship opportunity, so be it, to be honest with you, because I don't feel like we have one right now. Even though a lot of people are telling themselves they do. I don't think this team's good enough to win right now. I don't think we have enough to build enough, as I've said many times. So the real solution to all of this is to revamp all of what it is we have and turn it all into picks. And you know, I don't know that I don't think anybody in the organization actually thinks that's the solution, but they're gonna have to go through harder times, it seems, for them to really understand what it is that I see there. You can't go forward without enough, with the expectations that you can build enough, and then demands to make decisions that are going to hurt you even further, so that you can capitulate to people who are expecting more from you than you're capable of doing. That's really what it comes down to. You're not capable of building a team that can be a champion. You know what I mean? And so if you know that, and you're trying to make all these different moves that eat away at your value so that you can make people pleased who are expecting that from you, you're just further hurting yourself, and you're reiterating why they don't have the faith in you they don't. That's all it is. At some point in time, you got to stop the bleeding. And so that's pretty much my point of view. A little frustrated about it. But, you know, as I told you guys yesterday, there's been some hard times being a Laker fan, no doubt. But this is one of the hardest. Because you genuinely don't see a path to them who are in position to fix this actually doing so. You know, they're too short-sighted. They're listening to short-sighted people. And they want to do things now that aren't going to reach the levels that they want to get to. So it's like, I know that. I know that. If we were to get a championship this year, it would be more luck than being good. And so if that's what we're banking on, you're just prolonging the inevitable, which is people running you out of town. So the Lakers need to do less talking about what their intentions are and more value in their assets in general. Stop telling people what it is that you're willing to do in regards to trading picks. Stop telling people the deadlines that you have within your organization, your circumstances. That stuff got to stay in-house. If Bron wants to take a pay cut, I shouldn't know about that. If he only wants to take a pay cut for 5 minutes, and then if we don't get a guy, he wants to take the max, that should never come my way. I should never know about that. You know, you're working against yourself when that stuff is in place. So that's pretty much my take, man. It's frustrating being a Laker fan, man. It really is. I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just think we shouldn't do anything. In this environment, when everybody's waiting for you to do something, anything, it's very easy to make a mistake. Unless something magnificent comes your way, which in all honesty, this ain't the environment for that to even be offered to you, you got to wait until it is. You got to wait until it is. If I'm Rob Pelinka, you know what I'm doing? I'm getting some sleep. I'm getting some sleep. I'm taking a week off. Seriously, it's the beginning of the off season. It's after the draft. I'm taking a week off. Somewhere within this month, I'm taking a week off. I'm not feeling no calls for no trades because there's no trade that I'm going to make that's going to actually provide me value based on the environment that we just discussed. There's no trade. Anything that you do is going to cost you 2 picks, and it's likely going to be worth half of what it is that you're paying for just off of the strength of people thinking you a patsy. Just take some time off. Let's get past this era in the calendar where everybody's paying attention to us making moves. Let's let these fans who are going to be upset about you not making moves pee on themselves, whatever the hell they're going to do. Because at the end of the day, if we don't make moves, nothing's going to happen. They're going to root the team on next year regardless. Some of them are just so adamant about you doing something that I'd spite them all and not do nothing off the strength of that. Because you know ain't going to be nothing good coming your way. Not giving up 2 picks for Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm not giving up 2 picks for older players that are role players in nature. You figure you're giving away 2/3 of what you have to bring in at your very best, your 3rd best player. That doesn't make any sense, man. Only got 3 picks. And so that's my thing, man. Take some time off, Rob. Don't give too much consideration to what these fans and these talking heads are talking about. None of them are going to be pleased when they find out the move you make is ultimately bad for their future in the long run. They're going to be the same talking heads complaining later, just like they're complaining right now. You might as well absorb it right now while you're dealing with it already. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.